If you're hearing this, know that I am the only one that made it back alive. 3 of us walked into those woods, a trail so well marked, so safe. Families hiked it every weekend. We had maps. We had a satellite phone. We had each other. None of that mattered. I need you to understand. Something out there doesn't care about your trail markers. It watches. It waits. And by the second night, I wasn't just afraid of getting lost. I was afraid of what was walking beside us. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what happened to Daniel. What happened to Mara? Because somewhere in those trees, something took them apart from me, one piece at a time. And to this day, nobody believes what I say did it. The trail was called safe. Rangers walk it. Boy Scouts camp on it. People bring their dogs, their children, their grandmothers with bad knees. It's the kind of trail where you don't even pack extra water because you know you'll be back at the car by sundown. So how does a well-marked trail swallow 3 grown adults whole? Why did our GPS coordinates keep changing, even when none of us moved? And why, when they finally found me 4 days later, was I 30 miles from where I started, with no memory of walking there at all? I'm going to tell you everything, every terrible detail, but I need you to understand something first. Before I even tell you who we were, or why we went out there, I need you to understand that some of it, I still don't believe myself. Daniel was the planner. He was the one who bought the trail permits 3 weeks early, who cross-referenced 2 different weather apps, who laughed at people who went hiking without a first aid kit. He'd done this trail before, twice, and both times he came back saying it was the most peaceful place he'd ever been. Quiet, untouched. He wanted to share that with us. Mara was newer to hiking, but she trained for it like she trained for everything, relentlessly. She ran 5 miles every morning before work. She told me, the night before we left, that she wanted this trip to mean something. She'd just gone through a divorce. She said the woods felt like the only place that didn't ask anything of her. And me, I was just the friend who said yes. I wasn't outdoorsy. I wasn't spiritual about nature. I went because Daniel asked, and because Mara needed people around her who wouldn't let her sit alone in that empty apartment for one more weekend. We left the trailhead at 7:14 in the morning. I remember the time because Daniel took a photo of the trail sign, bright yellow, laminated, bolted to a post. Ridgeline Loop, 11.3 miles. Moderate difficulty, est, 6 hours. Underneath it, someone had stuck a faded sticker that said, "Watch the weather." We laughed about that. We thought it meant rain. The first 4 hours were exactly what you'd expect. Sunlight through the canopy, Mara humming to herself, Daniel pointing out deer tracks like a proud tour guide. We passed 2 other hiking groups, a family with a golden retriever, an older couple with trekking poles, who told us the summit view was worth every step. It was around mile 6 that Daniel got quiet. He kept checking his GPS. Not in a panicked way, just checking it more than usual. I asked him if something was wrong, and he said the trail marker count felt off. Ridgeline Loop was marked every half mile with small orange blazes painted on tree trunks. Daniel had hiked it before. He knew the rhythm of those markers like a heartbeat. He said we'd passed 4 markers in the last mile instead of 2. Mara laughed it off, said maybe they added new ones for safety. I laughed too. I didn't want to be the one who ruined the trip by being scared of paint on a tree. But I noticed something too, something small enough that I didn't say it out loud. The forest had gone quiet, not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet where you realize you haven't heard a bird in 20 minutes. The kind of quiet that makes your own footsteps sound too loud, like the woods are listening to you, instead of the other way around. By 2 p.m., we should have been near the ridge overlook, the halfway point, where Daniel promised the best view of the entire trip. Instead, the trail forked in a direction none of us remembered from the map. Daniel checked his GPS again. This time, his face changed. "That's not right," he said. He turned the phone toward us. The little blue dot marking our location was sitting directly on top of the trailhead parking lot. We hadn't moved in 6 hours. According to the GPS, we were exactly where we'd started. Mara laughed, nervous now, the kind of laugh people do when they need someone else to tell them it's fine. I looked at Daniel. Daniel wasn't laughing at all. That was the last completely normal moment of my life. We tried to backtrack. That was the first mistake, though we didn't know it yet. You're taught to backtrack when you're lost. Retrace your steps to the last point you knew was real. So we turned around, back toward the fork, back toward the last orange blaze we remembered seeing. It wasn't there, not faded, not fallen off the tree. Gone, like it had never been painted at all. Daniel pressed his hand against the bark where it should have been, like he could will it back into existence. Mara's breathing had changed. Short, shallow. She kept saying the word "okay" under her breath, over and over, not to us, to herself. The light started dying faster than it should have. I remember checking my watch, 4:40 p.m., and looking up to find the canopy already swallowing the last gray traces of sun, hours before sunset had any right to happen. Daniel said it might be the tree cover, the elevation, a storm system moving in that the weather apps missed. He said a lot of things that afternoon that were really just him trying to keep his own voice steady. That's when we heard it the first time. A single knock, wood against wood. Not a branch falling, too deliberate, too rhythmic, like something testing the trunk of a tree, the way you'd knock on a door to see if anyone was home. It came from behind us, then, seconds later, from our left, then from a distance, so far ahead of us, it shouldn't have been possible to hear at all. Mara grabbed my arm so hard it left marks that were still there 3 days later. Daniel decided we'd camp where we stood, rather than keep moving in failing light. He said it like a man trying to sound like he had a plan. We built no fire. He was afraid of what a fire might draw, though he never said that part out loud, and none of us asked him to. We sat back to back in a triangle, facing outward into a dark that had no edges. Around what I think was 9 p.m., the knocking stopped, and the whispering started. Not words, not exactly. Overlapping voices, low and fast, coming from every direction at once, like 100 people murmuring just past the edge of what you could understand. Daniel told us not to answer it, no matter what it said, no matter whose voice it used. I didn't understand what he meant by that until I heard my mother's voice, clear as if she were standing 3 feet away, calling my name from somewhere in the trees. My mother has been dead for 6 years. Mara heard her ex-husband. Daniel wouldn't say who he heard. He just started shaking, and he didn't stop. Somewhere close to midnight, Mara screamed, a sound I still hear when I close my eyes, because something had touched her ankle in the dark. Not grabbed, touched. Gentle, almost curious, like it was testing what she was. We didn't sleep. None of us said a word until the sun came up, gray and reluctant, filtering weakly through branches that seemed to have grown closer together overnight, boxing us in. When morning finally came, Daniel was gone. His pack was still there. His boots were still there, laced, upright, sitting exactly where he'd taken them off the night before, like he'd simply stepped out of them and walked away barefoot into the trees. There was no sign of a struggle, no broken branches, no drag marks, nothing torn or disturbed. It was as if the forest had reached down and lifted him straight up out of his own shoes. Mara wouldn't stop saying his name, over and over, quieter each time, like she already understood he wasn't going to answer. We searched, God, we searched, circling out from the campsite in what we thought were straight lines, calling his name until our throats gave out. But the trees didn't look right anymore. I want you to understand that, as clearly as I can say it, the forest had rearranged itself. Landmarks we'd passed the day before, a split boulder, a fallen log wide as a car, were nowhere to be found, and new ones had taken their place, as if the woods had redecorated overnight and expected us not to notice. Mara's GPS still showed us sitting at the trailhead parking lot. Mine did too. By early afternoon, Mara had stopped talking almost entirely. She walked a few steps behind me, eyes fixed somewhere past my shoulder, flinching at sounds I couldn't hear. I asked her what was wrong, and she just shook her head. Later, hours later, she finally spoke, and what she said still keeps me up at night. She said Daniel had been standing at the edge of our campsite just before dawn, watching us, smiling in a way he never smiled. She hadn't said anything because some deep, animal part of her knew that whatever was wearing his face wasn't going to answer if she called out to it. I told her she was exhausted, that she was seeing things, that grief and fear do strange things to the mind. I needed to believe that. I needed it more than I've ever needed anything. That night, we heard the knocking again. 3 sets this time, spaced out, deliberate, coming from 3 different directions, as if inviting us to guess which one used to be Daniel. Mara wouldn't sleep facing away from the tree line. I don't think she slept at all. When I opened my eyes the next morning, she was standing 10 feet away, facing the woods, perfectly still, her back to me. She didn't turn around when I said her name. Mara, I said again. My voice cracked on the second syllable. She still didn't turn. I made myself walk toward her, every step feeling like wading through water. When I was close enough to touch her shoulder, she finally spoke, and her voice was wrong, flat, layered, like 2 people saying the same words a half-second apart. I found the marker, she said. I looked past her. There, nailed to the trunk of an ancient, black-barked tree, was an orange trail blaze. Except it wasn't paint. It was carved, deep and old, the wood around it stained dark, and beneath it, someone, something, had nailed dozens of smaller objects to the bark. Buttons, a shoelace, a child's plastic barrette, a wedding ring, green with age. I understood then, in a way I couldn't have explained to anyone standing safely in their living room, that we hadn't stumbled onto a haunting. We'd stumbled onto a collection. That's when Mara finally turned around. Her eyes were wrong. Not injured, not tired. Wrong. Like something behind them had shifted the machinery, just slightly off its axis. She smiled at me, and it was Daniel's smile from her description, the one that didn't belong on a human face. You should stop looking for the trail, she said, in that same doubled voice. The trail is looking for you. I ran. I'm not proud of it, but I ran, and I didn't look back to see if she followed. Branches tore at my arms, roots caught my ankles, and behind me, I heard that knocking again. Faster now, frantic, keeping perfect rhythm with my own heartbeat, as if it had reached inside my chest and taken hold of the metronome itself. I don't remember most of what happened over the next several hours. I remember falling. I remember the taste of blood. I remember a strange, sourceless orange light flickering between the trees, like a lantern held by something that had no hand to hold it. And I remember, at some point in that endless running, hearing Mara's voice one final time, from very far away, very small, sounding for just one moment like herself again. Don't let them keep you too. Then nothing, just the trees, and the dark, and my own ragged breathing, until I collapsed against a fallen log, and the world went black. I woke up on pavement, not dirt, not pine needles. Pavement, the parking lot of the Ridgeline trailhead, exactly where we'd started, 3 days earlier, my body arranged neatly on the asphalt, like someone had set me down gently instead of letting me fall. My watch said it was 7:14 in the morning. The exact same time we'd first photographed that trail sign. A ranger found me an hour later. He said I'd been reported missing for 4 days, not 3, 4. I have never been able to account for that missing 24 hours, and some nights I don't try anymore, because some part of me is afraid of what I'd remember if I did. They searched for Daniel and Mara for 6 weeks. Helicopters, dogs, volunteers who didn't know either of them but showed up anyway, because that's what people do. They found nothing. No packs, no boots, no bodies. The trail itself, when rangers re-walked it with me, matched the map exactly. Every blaze was in its correct place, correct color, correct spacing. Half a mile apart, just like it was supposed to be. I asked the ranger about the carved marker, the nailed objects, the wedding ring green with age. He looked at me like I was speaking a language he almost recognized, and then he told me, quietly, like he wasn't supposed to, that Ridgeline Loop had a file. Missing hikers going back decades, always in groups of 2 or 3, always at least one who came back with no memory of the final hours, and always swearing that the trail itself had somehow turned against them. He said the file had a name for people like me. He called us the Returned. I think about Daniel's laugh sometimes, the way he sounded when he pointed out deer tracks, so certain that the woods were the safest place he knew. I think about Mara's voice, small and far away, telling me not to let them keep me too. I wonder, some nights, whether them meant Daniel and Mara, or whether it meant something else entirely, something that had already worn their faces so completely that it no longer remembered which parts of Daniel and Mara it had swallowed, and which parts it still was. Maybe that's the real horror of a well-marked trail. We trust the paint on the bark. We trust the map, the GPS dot, the 6-hour estimate typed neatly on a sign at the trailhead. We believe that because a path has been walked 1,000 times before, it will let us walk it too. But some trails don't lead you through the woods. Some trails lead the woods through you. I still hike sometimes, not Ridgeline, never Ridgeline, but I make myself get back on the trail because I refuse to let those woods take anything else from me. Every so often, though, on quiet trails, in quiet moments, I hear a single knock, wood against wood, and I wonder if it followed me home, or if it's simply waiting, patient as it's always been, for the next well-marked path to lead someone exactly where it wants them to go. If you've ever felt like something was watching you on a trail that was supposed to be safe, tell me in the comments. I want to know I'm not the only one. If you enjoyed this story, Like and subscribe for more disturbing tales like this.